Won't judge you. Keep streaming.
Here's what you get with your average local news stream. Here's what you get with CBS News Chicago. More breaking live coverage.
A closer look at the inauguration of the new mayor.
More impactful interviews.
Today, we're finding solutions.
More First Alert weather team coverage.
There's all the clouds we've been dealing with all morning long.
More live content when you want it, wherever you are. CBS News Chicago. More of what you're streaming for.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
Nate has one of the quickest minds I've ever seen.
Tony has a way of making people feel comfortable.
Gail has this unbelievable knack to ask the question that you're asking at home.
I've been told I could talk to a tree, and that's pretty much true.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my two good friends, and we talk about the world.
Your morning routine just got better. CBS Mornings, weekdays at 7.
When people turn on the news, they're essentially saying, I trust you to tell me what happened today. That trust is never lost on me. I think about it all the time.
At the CBS Evening News, we focus on solutions. We look at a story and we say, how do we make it relevant to people's lives? So this is what we eat to live longer. Finding solutions, giving people context and depth, how much money we can spend on groceries, finding solutions to healthcare problems. Based on all the doctors that you've spoken with, what should parents know? Finding solutions to help people understand what are the right choices to make for your family.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell on CBS.
Everybody has a Chicago story. Everybody has a Chicago memory. You know, I grew up a few blocks east of Halsted on 155th Street, so I could look up and see the skyline. My mom worked downtown Chicago, and she'd bring us downtown with her to work on the train, and just like, wow, you know, I feel like Stevie Wonder, skyscrapers and everything, you know, all of that, right? But it's something about the city, it just draws you in. That's what weaves it together. I mean, it feels like it's home. There's no other place like it on the planet.
The Tooth Fairy getting socked with some soaring prices.
We had something really clever to say here, but this is just too cute. Keep streaming.
Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist. We are watching severe storms just to the west of our viewing area. There are two new severe thunderstorm warnings, one for Lee County and one for Ogle County, as winds are the biggest problem with these storms. Both of them could bring wind gusts between 60 and 70 miles per hour. Now, we also have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock tonight for all the counties in pink there. You see them mainly our far western counties. So McHenry County, DeKalb County, and LaSalle as well. Also underneath this area of rain and thunderstorm activity, there's a chance for some large hail as well. Storms have been moving forward speed now at about 30 miles per hour. So we are watching here on the wider view, that yellow box indicating where we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. That well-developed line continuing to push closer to the Chicago area. It's going to be stepping into our western suburbs soon, and we will stay unsettled as we go through the overnight. Now, we are watching storms carefully too for rotation as they move into the picture. So the tornado threat exists, although it is low, but it is existing there because some of these storms now in Lee and Ogle County are looking like they want to perhaps create some rotation aloft. So that's what we're watching with these as they move into Chicago tonight between now and midnight, and they travel eastward. So damaging winds are largest threat with these. Also hail. We could see hail to 1 inch or maybe 1.5 inches in diameter. Flooding if those storms kind of repeat in the same place for a while, and a tornado threat does exist for us. So taking a closer look here at First Alert radar, we do see those two areas that are under the severe thunderstorm warnings. We have one down to the south, and that one is actually moving eastward. So the forward speed on this one is 30 miles per hour, and it is moving east. So we expect this to be into Amboy at about 7:39, Sublette about 7:43, and Compton perhaps at 7:53. And if it were to hold together going into the Paw Paw area at 7:59. That's the first severe thunderstorm warning. Now the second one is going a little bit farther to the northeast, so the forward movement is kind of edging near Rockford. So you can see it here between Mount Morris and Flag. That's just out of our viewing area. That's why you might not be familiar with those towns. It's moving northeastward though, possibly for Rockford at 7:51 and the Cherry Valley area at 7:55 and maybe Belvedere at 8:03. So both of these storms are showing signs that they're intensifying, probably because they're moving into an environment that is warm and it is humid as well. So when we look at the Doppler winds, we do see that strong winds do exist with each one. Let's look at the one from the north too. A little bit of that upper rotation aloft, perhaps around Pine Rock and White Rock. So that's why we are going to carefully monitor these storms too, because we don't want to see any obvious rotation with them at the surface. But then when we look to the one to the south, it seems that that one has the strongest winds now near East Grove as they head toward Amboy and Sublette. Here's 52 right here, and that storm is moving to the east at about 30 miles per hour. So very heavy rain associated with that as it moves eastward, and some lightning. Let's check the lightning detection feature with that, because lightning has been an issue across north central Illinois and northwestern Illinois all evening. And as you can see, the feature there really kind of lighting up, indicating where we have those lightning strikes, and really kind of clustered here within that severe thunderstorm watch box to the north and also the one to the south. So this is Lee and Ogle counties, which could see winds 60 to 70 miles per hour, and these are in effect until 8:30 tonight. Now DeKalb County isn't far away, and that's the track that these are taking. Kind of the one to the south especially is moving due eastward, so that could be edging closer to Paw Paw and Waterman, maybe even Clipview in Mendota there on the edge of the screen because of the movement. And it is kind of filling in with a lot of heavy rain on the south side of that system. So as it travels eastward, it is going to bring that heavy rain possibly to you in Mendota. That's a place that's had heavy rain from previous storms before, and also to Sublette at 7:44, Paw Paw at 8 o'clock, and maybe Shabana at 8:08. So these are the first two warnings that we are watching as the storm line moves into the Chicago area. It's a well-defined line though, showing up on radar. You can see it here. I'll put this into motion for you so you can see how it's all lining up like a squall line. Lots of lightning associated with it, and damaging wind threats are with it as well. That's going to be the case here as we go into the evening. So it's moving into an environment that is very warm and quite humid as well. We're still at 86 degrees at both airports, 82 Waukegan, 84 in Joliet, and it's 83 in Kankakee. And when we look at dew point temperatures and we see them soar to the middle 70s, that is telling us that that air mass is moisture loaded. So any storms that form do certainly have the potential of lofting some very heavy rain around. So this line is moving closer to Chicago, and we expect between now and 10 o'clock tonight, we're going to see the bulk of this really start to ramp up and move through the core of the Chicago metro area, and then continue on that eastward track between 11 p.m. and midnight. But we're not quite done with showers and storms this weekend. Scattered storms may be around from time to time. But keep in mind right now that severe thunderstorm watch in effect till 10 o'clock tonight. All the counties in pink. For now, it's just our far western counties of LaSalle, DeKalb, and McHenry. But that could be expanded eastward in time. We'll keep you posted on that. Once this line moves through, after midnight, things may quiet down for a couple of hours, and then storms ramp up again. And we have scattered storm chances for Saturday, about a 50-50 chance, slightly less on Sunday. I think what you'll notice about on Sunday is that wildfire smoke will move back into the picture for us. A little hazy skies there, high temperatures in the middle 80s over the weekend. So between now and 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, we are going to be on guard for stronger thunderstorms. Stay with us here at CBS News Chicago, and we will update you, especially if we get into any warnings locally.
Hello everyone, Jim Williams here in the newsroom, and we are talking about the Reverend Jackson, who announced today that he is stepping down from the leadership position at Rainbow Push, the organization he founded. Joining us now is Dr. Benita Carr of Casa, Cook County. She is the former National Director of Education for Rainbow Push and therefore worked closely with Reverend Jackson. Dr. Carr, good to be with you. Thank you so much. What's your reaction to this announcement?
Oh, well, to be honest, it's overwhelming. But succinctly, I would say the following, that Reverend Jackson was anointed, appointed to lead the civil rights movement after the assassination of Dr. King. And it cannot be overstated of the persistence, resilience, and durability of Reverend Jackson's leadership on the battlefield to address systemic issues of inequality and disparity for the least of these. As you have stated, for over 50 years, he has been a freedom fighter to level the playing field, open doors, and close doors that needed to be shut. And so for that, I would say a resounding thank you to a fearless civil rights leader who has just been persistent and resilient for over 5 decades. It's just absolutely remarkable, and it's time for him to rest. But I'm confident that he has continued to encourage the next generation to advance the unfulfilled journey toward equality.
Dr. Carr, we know some of his high-profile movements and cases. He ran for president twice. What's he like to work with behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes, he is the most kind person that I have ever experienced. He's very thoughtful. He's very giving. You know, he still keeps in contact with people that he went to elementary school with and high school. And we would go on different trips. And he would say, look, I got to stop and see my childhood friend. And he's a global icon in the civil rights movement. But he never, ever forgot who he was and where he came from. And so I would say that he is kind, gentle, and he also is a very humble man. And so I know that oftentimes we see him, you know, in the cameras and doing the speeches and fighting, but he's also very humble.
You know, I interviewed him a number of times, but one interview stands out to me. It was early in the morning. I was anchoring an early morning newscast, so it couldn't have been any later than 5:30, and he was making the rounds, urging inmates at Cook County Jail, I think this was the story, to get tested for HIV. And so as we were in a commercial break before the interview began, I said, Reverend Jackson, you're up early, you're doing all these interviews with television stations, local television stations. Why are you doing this? And he said, this is my work, man. This is my work. Why do you think he was so tireless?
As I stated earlier, I think he was so tireless because he believed in the mantle that was handed to him in regards to continuing to fight for civil rights and human rights for the least of these. And he did not take it lightly. I've never met anyone who worked as hard as he did, would get up at the crack of dawn, read newspapers, so that he could know what was going on, not just in Chicago, but around the world. He is a prolific reader. And not only was he or is he a prolific reader, but he also is a prolific organizer. So I truly, truly believe that he understood the calling on his life, and he accepted it and was willing to make so many sacrifices so that it could be enacted.
He is 81 years old. Several years ago, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. What impact has Parkinson's had on him?
It's had a profound impact on him in regards to his ability to speak, which is his gift. If you look at any of the speeches from when he was running for president in 1985 and 1988, Reverend Jackson was someone that students and people around the world wanted to emulate in terms of his oratorical skills. And so I would say that it definitely, impacted the man whom we grew to know as a prolific speaker. And his ability to move around as much. But in spite of his inability to speak as we knew him how to speak and to move around, he still was moving around, Jim. He still was flying all across the country. He was still speaking when he could. And it just speaks to
Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist. We have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning for a couple of counties now, DeKalb and LaSalle, as this main line of thunderstorms moves in. It's a squall line creating a damaging wind threat. That is our concern. So it's starting to fill into the western counties of our viewing area because storms are traveling eastward. We also have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. You can see that here indicated with the counties shaded in pink, and that would be for McHenry County, DeKalb, and LaSalle as well. So storms are firing and moving eastward. Their forward speed has picked up a bit. They're up at 45 miles per hour now out of the east. You can see the intensity of some of those cells with the deeper reds indicating the stronger ones, and also the big yellow box, that's the severe thunderstorm watch. So when we put this all into motion for you, you can get a better idea of the landscape, how this is a large line of thunderstorm activity that is traveling eastward. So overnight unsettled weather, but I think the height of it between now and 10 o'clock as this line continues pushing through the Chicago area. Here's a look at Futurecast. Even once it's through after the midnight hour, we are going to stay unsettled with a few scattered showers and storm chances both Saturday and Sunday. So wind damage, our greatest threat, I think, with this thunderstorm complex as it moves through. We could see wind gusts to maybe 70 miles per hour with the strongest cells. Storms have been moving eastward at 45. So let's take a look here at the radar, a closer look now at where we have that watch that's in effect. So we're going to our west and southwest suburbs here, and we're talking about the area of Princeton and Walnut. This is actually moving to Mendota and Northville. So you do want to be on guard for some strong winds to be moving in ahead of this main line as they are moving east at 45 miles per hour. That's been the trend, the eastward movement, but the speed of it picking up just a bit, because earlier today we had thunderstorms that were moving a forward speed of only 15 miles per hour, while these are moving a lot faster. So what we're going to see now is this moving into Mendota at about 7:56, then headed to Pawpaw at 8:05, Earl at 8:09. Now, should it hold together, which I think it will because this is all part of a squall line, we'll see this move into Northville at 8:21, then Sandwich at 8:27, and perhaps Plano and Yorkville as well, because the line itself is continuing to travel to the east, bringing that damaging wind threat. That's going to be the biggest threat with these cells as they move eastward. Now, let's take a closer look at Mendota because this thunderstorm is almost to you. So we can see it here moving into Amboy. There's the new radar sweep down through Lemoyne into Berlin, and this is moving eastward to Westfield and getting close to that I-39 corridor, which is right along here. So Brooklyn, Mendota, Troy Grove, all three communities are in the firing line to see this system come through. We're also seeing that there are a lot of lightning strikes with this. I can turn on the lightning detection feature, show you there's a danger with the lightning, but also the damaging wind threat. And we've been watching carefully for any sorts of rotation with these cells as they're moving eastward. There have been minor areas of rotation, but basically when we look at the Doppler wind plot here, it is telling us that if you live in places like Westfield, like Mendota, Brooklyn or Troy Grove or Amboy, be on the watch for those stronger wind gusts. The damaging wind threat, I think, is the biggest threat with this severe thunderstorm warning as storms do move eastward, and they are moving east at 45 miles per hour. So I'm going to zoom this out a little bit so you can get a better view of the storm complex as it starts to line up and move into the western suburbs of Chicago. Now, the whole line itself, I can put this into motion for you, traveling to the east. That's going to be the trend with this line. So you can see the multiple warnings that are lining up ahead of this. So we have this new one now that's for DeKalb, southern DeKalb, and northern LaSalle County. That's in effect until 8:45 for you for a damaging wind threat because of this particular cell on the leading edge of that squall line. Another strong cell is this one up here that's just west of you in DeKalb. So you can see we have some intense storms lining up along this main squall line as it travels eastward. And it will continue on that eastward track and start pushing closer to Chicago. The whole line itself probably will move through between about 8 and 10 p.m. as it moves eastward, bringing that damaging wind threat. So that's basically our biggest concern with this, but we are watching for any areas that may show signs of some rotation. But for right now, what we see is just this main line coming in, bringing the damaging wind threat, bringing the threat of hail. We also could see hail to an inch or more in diameter. I just wanted to see if there was any hail showing up on our hail tracker. Not at the moment, which is good news, but we do have some very strong winds that are accompanying this. Temperature-wise, it's moving into an environment that is quite warm. We have temperatures in the middle 80s at the airports, 81 in Aurora. The other issue, too, is not only did we build the heat today, but also all of the moisture that's available for these storms to work with. We have had temperatures, dew point temperatures soaring into the 70s now. We have mid-70 dew point temperatures in places like DeKalb, like McHenry, Joliet, a dew point temperature of 73. When you get in the 70s, it's downright tropical. That just means these will be moisture-loaded storms. Anybody who gets under one of these severe storms, you will have some localized flooding issues or ponding on the roads just because of the torrential rain that could accompany these storms as they move in. So you can see the whole squall line as it lines up. So between now and 10 o'clock, we're going to see it move right through our viewing area. And again, damaging winds and large hail are the biggest threats with the system as it comes in. Flooding, yes, it could be an issue, especially if any storms train or repeat over the same place or just kind of lag over the same area. Also, to a tornado threat. We're watching for possibility of any rotation with these cells. But for right now, damaging wind threats. We could see wind gusts between 60 and 70 miles per hour with the strongest storms. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center has put up this severe thunderstorm watch until 10 o'clock tonight for all the counties in pink. And that does include McHenry County, DeKalb, and LaSalle. It could be expanded a little farther to the east with time. We will be watching for that as we go through the evening and these storms continue to march through. Once this line is through, we're not done with rain this weekend. We have about a 50-50 shot on Saturday of scattered storms. Sunday, a little lesser of a chance, but on Sunday you may notice wildfire smoke coming back into the picture for us, so that haze to the sky. Both days will feature a west wind, and that west wind will be stronger Sunday, so I do think areas right along the lakefront will actually be warm as well. So that's just going to continue pushing the warmth to the lake. So let's be on guard between now and 10 or 11 o'clock tonight as strong storms move into the Chicago area. Keep it here with CBS News Chicago, and we will jump in and give you an update as soon as new warnings come out.
Chicago is real. The people here are real, and they want their news to be real, I think.
We are doing something for our own community.
They're all busy. They're giving us a valuable resource, their time, and the trust they have in us to deliver the day's news in a real way. Laugh when you can, be serious when you need to. And that's alive and well on our set. We all get along great. We enjoy working with each other. You can't hide that, and it's on display every night.
Here's what you get with your average local news stream. Here's what you get with CBS News Chicago. More breaking live coverage.
A closer look at the inauguration of the new mayor.
More impactful interviews.
Today, we're finding solutions.
More First Alert weather team coverage.
Here's all the clouds we've been dealing with all morning long.
More live content when you want it, wherever you are. CBS News Chicago. More of what you're streaming for.
At the CBS Evening News, we focus on solutions. We look at a story and we say, how do we make it relevant to people's lives? So this is what we eat to live longer. Finding solutions, giving people context and depth, how much money we can spend on groceries, finding solutions to healthcare problems.
Based on all the doctors that you've spoken with, what should parents know?
Finding solutions to help people understand what are the right choices to make for your family.
The CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell on CBS.
I was born and raised on Chicago's South Side. I live within minutes of where I was raised. I think the most important thing to understand about Chicago is that it's not any one thing. I think we have an obligation as a news organization to provide a complete portrait of the city we serve. People want to know everything that's going on in a community, and that includes those good stories. That's what I see when I go to a place like the South Side. That's what I see when I go to the West Side. I know they exist, and we should bring those stories to our audience.
A new survey shows many consumers are feeling optimistic about the future.
The University of Michigan says consumer sentiment was up 13% in July. That's the second month of improvement. It's also the most optimistic Americans have felt since 2021. The survey indicates the rise is due to inflation slowing down.
Despite the Supreme Court striking down President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, the Biden administration says more than 800,000 borrowers will have their debt wiped away in the coming weeks. Here's why. Several programs eliminate the remaining debt once a borrower has made enough payments. The administration did a more accurate count of qualified payments, so more people will soon reach that time limit and have the rest of their debt forgiven.
CBS 2 has been reporting on Chicagoans getting hosed by bogus water bills for 4 years, and we've saved people hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now a new getting hosed record. We just saved a retired couple more than $69,000, enough to buy a luxury car.
Not bad, huh? CBS 2's Lauren Victory sets the stage.
To $2,000, to $4,000, to $5,000.
For Andrea Garner, fixing the mess at her parents' investment property,
it's crazy, Mom.
is all part of caring for the people who raised her.
Just running around for anything that they need.
It's a big load.
It is, but it is a big joy.
Here's what's draining that joy: bills from Chicago's Department of Finance. The family knew they had unpaid water charges to settle before selling their 3-flat in Roseland. But when they heard the balance,
it was like deer in headlights and a complete freeze of everything, like a complete shock. What do we do?
This statement from June shows what they expected to pay at the closing table, about $11,700. Instead,
there was an outstanding bill that I still can't even really say the words out loud. $80,000. $80,000 worth of water? How?
That had to have been one of the hardest calls that I had to make to a client.
Adeline Lewis is the paralegal helping with the Garner's building sale.
We can't close without a paid bill.
She received this ledger card from the city showing multiple charges on the same day for $5,000, $21,000, $26,000, and more. Lewis hoped to wash away worries by calling the city's utility billing customer service. She recorded the conversation.
Can you tell me why this bill has gone up $65,000?
She had an estimate reading from November 2021 till now.
So you're saying my client has to pay a surprise $65,000 increase because Chicago has been underestimating usage since November of 2021?
That is correct.
Is it? Under meter reading, these two bills say estimate, but these 3 bills say actual, including one with negative water use. Huh? Then the ledger says metered all over it. Metered, meaning what they were previously charged shouldn't have been tens of thousands of dollars off.
Has your office also heard other cases like this?
Yes, actually, we're compiling them.
36th Ward Alderman Gilbert Villegas is organizing testimony for an August 31st committee meeting where he plans to question Chicago's water billing system.
Obviously, there's a disconnect between the technology and the water delivery, the billing, and the constituents' utilization of service.
Yes, the meter is working. Yeah.
A discovery made while our cameras were rolling. Chicago Department of Water Management crews showed up to the Garner's building about 2 hours after CBS 2 inquired about that astronomical balance.
You're saying you got an emergency work order to come here today?
They removed an old water meter, installed the new one, and promised to test the equipment.
Again, after we press the city, the Garners tell us a credit of more than $69,000 showed up on their water account today. What they and we still don't have answers as to why or how the bill got so bungled in the first place. $69,000 is a record even for us fixing bills for Chicagoans getting hosed. The Garners are grateful, thankful for, quote, giving us the voice we needed. Alderman Villegas will hold that hearing next month to try to stop the ongoing mess of Chicago's water billing system. Reporting live in the newsroom, Lauren Victory, CBS 2 News.
Great job, Lauren. Thank you. In today's Health Watch, researchers are looking into why some people don't seem to age mentally. They remain sharp even well into their senior years.
They're called super-agers. They are people who are in their 80s, but mentally, they're as quick as people 30 years younger. Spanish researchers looked at dozens of them and found that these super-agers had more gray matter in parts of their brains related to movement. They also scored higher in agility, mobility, and balance tests. They also said that they got enough sleep, which means that sleep is related to cognitive health, according to that study.
And speaking of brain health, another study says if you want to nurture your noggin as you get older, get your eyes checked regularly. Researchers found that people with untreated visual impairments were more likely to develop dementia. Even mild vision impairment increased the risk. It's seemingly everywhere in drinks, small packets in restaurants, and foods of all kinds. Now the World Health Organization's cancer agency has labeled the artificial sweetener aspartame a possible cause of cancer.
But there is a separate group of experts looking at that same evidence, and they still consider the sugar substitute to be safe. CBS 2's Tina Kraus tells us about this new research from London.
It's 200 times sweeter than sugar and the world's most widely used artificial sweetener. Aspartame is found in about 6,000 products worldwide, from diet soda to flavored water to yogurt. The World Health Organization's cancer agency now says aspartame is a possible carcinogen.
Hi, everybody. I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist in the First Alert Weather Center. Our active radar tonight is now prompting some severe thunderstorm warnings that are starting to move eastward. We have a watch up for our far western counties of LaSalle, DeKalb, and McHenry, but now we have a few warnings to tell you about as well. So that watch, by the way, is in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. Storms are lining up almost like a squall line, creating a damaging wind threat. That's going to be our biggest hazard tonight as we bring these storms into the Chicago area between now and about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. We've seen wind gusts between 60 and 70 miles per hour. A little bit of wind damage in the Dixon area, which is well west of DeKalb, with this severe weather that moved through. So you can see the whole line. I've zoomed it out so you can get it into motion and see how it's all pushing eastward. That yellow box indicating where the severe thunderstorm watch is. So as we go through time tonight, it's very unsettled with showers and storms. Even after this main line comes through between 10 and 11, we'll keep showers and storms in the forecast overnight and even into tomorrow morning. Futurecast is showing this main line coming through. Here's 10 o'clock tonight. Then as we get into the 1 a.m. hour, it continues pushing into lower Michigan and central Indiana. As I mentioned, damaging winds, that's our greatest threat with this line as it comes through. Some large hail as well. And you could have localized flooding just because it's so humid outside that it kind of moisture loads these storms when they come in, and that could create a problem. And we're of course watching for any rotation to see if we get a tornado warning at all. But right now it's a severe thunderstorm warning. The one closest to us is the one that is for DeKalb and LaSalle counties, and that's in effect until 8:45. Storms are moving to the east at 45 miles per hour along that line as they travel to the east. So let's take a closer look at radar and show you how we had a cluster up here near DeKalb that actually showed signs of weakening. Thank goodness for that. But this one is quite healthy. That's our concern right now. That's why the National Weather Service went ahead and extended this warning to include the northern portion of LaSalle County, the southern portion of DeKalb County, because of the forward speed. It's moving east at 45. What I've noticed is the squall line continues pushing through Mendota, places like that, and now we're starting to see a faster forward speed on this. So Northville, you are next in the line of this severe thunderstorm warning as it moves east at 45 miles per hour. And here are some times for you to prepare for the chance for some damaging winds. Again, those winds could gust 60 to 70 miles per hour. We also could see some large hail with these storms as well, so be on the watch for that. So into Earl at 8:07, very shortly here. Shabana at 8:10, Adams at 8:16, and then we start to get closer to Northville and Sandwich. Sandwich about 8:25, and then the Sugar Grove area should this hold together, and we expect that to take place because this is part of a line that is moving eastward. And the greatest threat with this is that damaging wind threat. We've been watching carefully for any signs of rotation along these cells, and what we can see here when we look at our Doppler wind profile is that the strong winds are right in here, almost on the I-39 corridor on the north side of Mendota. And that's where you see those heavier wind gusts, these lighter blue returns that are showing up within our display just south of Brooklyn and north of Mendota. This is indicating where we do have some stronger winds with this severe thunderstorm. So that's why it is a warned storm. Now, as we get closer to some of the towns that really are under the impact right now, we see from Paw Paw to Brooklyn to Mendota down into Troy Grove, with the real core of this running over the I-39 corridor, ready for Meridian. And Earl is on the track for this storm as well, because right now it is traveling eastward, kind of running along 14 here. This is the I-39 corridor. Our far western suburbs are out here, and the storm itself is moving eastward. So it is going to be moving closer to the Chicago area as we go hour by hour. In fact, I can put this into motion for you so you can get an idea of how this whole line is filling in, bringing that damaging wind threat right now to our western suburbs. So we're watching southern DeKalb County right now and northern LaSalle County for severe thunderstorms. And those warnings are in effect until 8:45 this evening, just because the whole squall line has to work its way through before we can be relieved of that severe weather. It's moving into a warm and very humid environment. Temperatures are in the middle 80s still, waiting on that front in Cook County. It's some rain-cooled air, though, for Ottawa and DeKalb, into the 70s there. But dew point temperatures have been rising, and we see a lot of moisture moving into these storms, so that's what's going to help create some heavier downpours. So that's why I think some areas could see some localized flooding, especially if a storm repeats over the same place. But this is all part of a squall line that is moving through. Lightning expected with this as well. That's what we've seen with the history of it, and also that damaging wind threat. The town of Dixon is well west of DeKalb, and they had some reports of some damage from wind gusts that were estimated to be about 70 miles per hour. So that's why we have the severe thunderstorm watch in effect for all of the counties here you see in pink, and that does include McHenry, DeKalb, and LaSalle. Now, this could be extended farther eastward. We'll have to see how this squall line behaves as it interacts with our warm air that's waiting in place. So once this line moves through between about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, we're not done with rain this weekend. We have scattered shower and storm chances tomorrow, about a 50-50 chance. A little less on Sunday. I think what you'll notice about Sunday is that the wildfire smoke will move back into the picture, and we'll see that hazy sky appearance. So the weekend features seasonable temperatures, but a passing thunderstorm at times. So keep it here with CBS News Chicago. We will jump in with any new updates or any new warnings as we track the squall line as it moves closer to Chicago.
More rain, not good news for a lot of people who are still cleaning up after record rainfall 2 weeks ago. Homeowners tell us they are frustrated by a lack of answers and help.
Now they're asking our Sarah Maki for guidance on where to turn.
I live in the Austin neighborhood my entire life. I had never seen anything like that before.
Look around this Austin basement.
Everything was pretty much floating.
You will find a lot of damage, a broken washing machine, dirt, and grime.
Everything was just flipped over.
But what this homeowner doesn't have is answers.
This has been a complete disaster, and we have no one to tell us or give us direction on what's to come.
This homeowner didn't want to share her name or face because she is a city employee, now frustrated by the lack of answers from the city of Chicago. She says she filed a report with 311 after finding all of her possessions floating in waist-high water in her basement July 2nd.
They said they'll get back to you 3 to 4 days. I haven't heard anything. So we're basically pretty much left with just throw everything out.
And she was optimistic when she heard the governor had signed a disaster declaration. News that got this reaction at a community meeting Tuesday. But when we reached out to the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, IEMA, about what this means for residents, they told us the disaster proclamation provides a framework for response. And the only immediate funds available post-disaster are affected individuals' own money, private insurance, local governments, and non-government organizations. An official adds the state has not received any requests for assets or resources from Chicago or Cook County. This resident telling us if no help is coming, she would like someone to say that.
Something. Someone say something. No one is saying anything.
We asked the city of Chicago about that point from IEMA, that no local entities had asked for state resources or state assets. They said they have. They also added that they are hosting a cleaning supply giveaway at a public library in West Garfield Park tomorrow. In Austin, Sarah Maki, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Sarah. And we did just learn moments ago the city is sending 300 workers to that area to assess the damage and help with cleanup.
The National Weather Service says it has now confirmed 11 tornadoes touched down during our severe weather on Wednesday. That includes the tornado at O'Hare. The strongest were the tornadoes in Elgin, Burr Ridge, and Huntley. Stay with us tonight on CBS Chicago. Our First Alert weather team will be tracking the potential for storms through the night. You'll find us on all of our digital platforms.
Longtime civil rights leader Reverend Jackson will be stepping aside from his Rainbow Push Coalition leadership position.
CBS 2's Suzanne Lemonnier joins us now from the organization's Southside headquarters with the news.
Well, Joe, Marie, there's going to be a gathering here tonight at the Rainbow Push Coalition Convention, the annual convention taking place here at the headquarters. And the goal here is it's going to be a very big gathering of major players in the civil rights movement. Now, I got the opportunity to see this historic organization founded by the Reverend Jackson through the eyes of a member and a volunteer. She's been with the movement since the 1990s.
This nation has to continue to be challenged.
When you think of the words civil rights movement, for you, what comes to mind when I say the name Reverend Jackson?
It's difficult for me. I'm sorry. Because I've been there in the struggle.
Wanda Wright is a reporter for the Chicago News Weekly and has been a member of Rainbow Push Coalition for more than 3 decades.
We've been on the front lines in Vieques fighting for women with cancer on the island. We've been in picket lines in the snow and the rain and the ice. And you'd be surprised how much people think that we're not doing anything when he's responsible for so many of the advancements that African Americans and Latinos and anybody of color. We have seen countries and people and revolutions and causes because of his voice.
More have died on these streets since Friday.
In 2017, Reverend Jackson announced he had Parkinson's disease. While his health may have slowed him down, it certainly didn't stop his fight.
Keep hope alive.
Wright says there's great anticipation among members of the civil rights organization about this weekend's announcement involving the icon who was with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he was assassinated and continued to fight for black and brown people for decades to come.
We know that Reverend Jackson is not stepping down as much as he is stepping aside. And he will be able to get on that stage and tell us what he's got planned and tell us a little bit more about what the future of Rainbow Push Coalition is going to do.
Now, Wright says Jackson had truly been a force, and replacing all of that energy is going to take everyone. But she does say that whoever takes over his role will continue that fight. At Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters, Suzanne Lemonnier, CBS 2 News. Joe.
What a great summary, Suzanne. And you think back on almost every significant civil rights moment in the last 50 or 60 years at least, and you'll see Jesse Jackson in the picture more than likely. Suzanne, thanks.
We begin with breaking news out of Schaumburg tonight. A fire at a senior apartment building sent 3 people to the hospital, including a firefighter, all of them suffering from minor smoke inhalation. The fire department tells us that those flames broke out on a porch.
I use a walker, and they were helping me to the fireplace, and then they said somebody down the hall needed help, so they all ran to that, and another policeman in the stairway helped me down, and they got me out right away.
Right now, residents and families are being reunited at nearby Frost Junior High School. We have a crew on the way to the scene, and we'll have the latest coming up tonight in our news at 10 o'clock. It has been a difficult few weeks for the Northwestern Athletic Department, to say the least. The university firing longtime football coach Pat Fitzgerald on Monday. Now, head baseball coach Jim Foster is also out of a job.
We have team coverage of the fallout tonight, beginning with CBS 2 Sports Director Marshall Harris, who just spoke with 2 baseball players about what they went through in the program.
It's been a lot for them in the last week or so. Joe Marie, the players, spoke to me under the condition that we'd keep their identities hidden. After the season, the players filled out anonymous surveys complaining about a toxic environment, and some even met with administrators. But it was only after the media shined a spotlight on the program that action was taken.
I'm worried that it took all this media coverage for it to happen. And I would like to hope, and I know that they said that it was ongoing before all this Coach Fitz and football hazing thing came out, which totally makes sense. Like, if that was going on, obviously your HR team has to do something else. But I really do hope that they're going to do this on principle of what the players did and reached out.
That player getting ready to play for his 4th coach in 4 seasons. He talked about dealing with depression and how it pains him to see how far the Wildcats have fallen after posting a 10-40 record last season. But for the first time in a long time, he says he is happy and hopeful about Northwestern baseball, and he says his teammates overwhelmingly share that sentiment.
All right, Marshall, thanks very much.
Both head coach dismissals do come after allegations of hazing, bullying, and that toxic environment within the respective programs.
We still have not heard directly from the university's leadership. CBS 2's Marissa Perlman continues our team coverage now from Northwestern's campus with what's next for the programs.
Big choices from the university leadership with no opportunity for questions to the top brass of these programs. The university president and the athletic director both noticeably absent this week.
In their exit interviews, 32 of the 35 players at Northwestern gave Jim Foster the lowest possible grades.
On Monday, Danny Parkins, host with 670 The Score, broke the story of Northwestern head baseball coach Jim Foster and what 9 baseball program sources call a toxic culture of racism and bullying. And days later, Foster was fired.
It was the militaristic approach to amateur baseball with regards to health of student athletes, I think, that was singularly the most appalling.
Foster's firing comes 3 days after head football coach Pat Fitzgerald was fired amid allegations of problematic hazing in the program. Since then, there's been no word from the university's athletic department leadership. We've asked the department multiple times to speak with the university president and athletic director. The associate athletic director said Friday, in part, "We are very focused on the students' families and staff right now, and that will be Northwestern's priority. I don't expect any interviews."
I don't think it's what they would teach at Northwestern's crisis management classes.
The athletic director is typically in charge of hiring and firing head coaches, but President Michael Schill has spoken for the university, issuing a statement on Fitzgerald. Dr. Derek Bragg has not made a public statement on Fitzgerald's status at all. As for when we may finally hear from university leadership, Parkins believes someone will have to come forward before players themselves speak up about the issue on Big Ten Media Day later on this month. Reporting in Evanston, I'm Marissa Perlman, CBS 2 News.
Thank you, Marissa. Right now, a Chicago man is being held without bail after a deadly shooting inside an Evergreen Park Mariano's. Prosecutors say 21-year-old Armoni Henry walked into that Mariano's yesterday morning and shot his girlfriend, 21-year-old Jaylene Flores, in a back storage room. Prior to that shooting, prosecutors said Henry confronted Flores for removing an Apple AirTag tracking device that he placed in her car without her knowledge. She had also filed 2 previous orders of protection against him.
A new report from a Cook County watchdog highlights complaints about the confidential information of juvenile offenders being shared. The Office of the Inspector General says there was an agreement between a law center and the Public Defender's Office to share the information so they could solicit minors to use their legal services. They say this was all done in an effort to get funding for restorative justice issues. The OIG's office recommended staff at the Public Defender's Office be retrained on the sharing of confidential information, and some attorneys may face state disciplinary action.
Thank you both for joining us here on the stream.
Thank you. Stream whenever you want, wherever you want. We won't judge you. Keep streaming.
When I think about growing up in Evanston, a lot of it is family. It's a real foundational feeling that's never left me. I love the commitment to surviving winter. I love the drive to always be better. I love the passion for our sports teams, taking advantage of those last warm days of summer. There's endless opportunity here to learn about each other. I feel that in this city. And I do still pinch myself when I'm driving in on Kennedy and see the skyline, unless there's terrible traffic.
Here's what you get with your average local news stream. Here's what you get with CBS News Chicago. More breaking live coverage.
A closer look at the inauguration of the new mayor.
More impactful interviews.
Today, we're finding solutions.
More First Alert weather team coverage.
Here's all the clouds we've been dealing with all morning long.
More live content when you want it, wherever you are. CBS News Chicago. More of what you're streaming for.
Cutting the cord on cable? Stream CBS 2 News live every day on CBS News Chicago.
I want you to find. I believe in not just talking about change, but being part of the change. And how I think you do that is you impact our youth. You'll find me all the time out in the community. You'll find me mentoring. You'll find me there hoping to inspire our youth in the city. We have a responsibility to go into our neighborhoods, to go into our community centers, to talk to our young boys and girls, and to be there for them, and that's so important to me.
At the end of the day, our mission is to serve the community. And I promised my grandmother that if I got a chance to come home and report in the city that I lived in, I would do everything I could to make sure that the community was represented, you know, that their stories were told. So personally, for me, I sleep very well knowing that I am doing the kind of work that my grandmother would be proud of.
Want to know anywhere you go? Stream CBS News Chicago everywhere you go.
I love this city. It has a lot to do with the people.
Take a picture of this. Who got the camera?
The people here work hard, and people in Chicago also lead with their hearts.
I have Stacy.
And I have Will.
There's a humbleness, I think. When things aren't going well, I think they also reach out and they help their neighbors. Story after story, I've seen people come together to help the people around them. And I think that's what makes a city this size still so special, because it is a community.
You're streaming CBS News Chicago. I'm Jim Williams. Here are your top
Streaming when you should be sleeping? We won't judge you. Keep streaming.
In the Austin neighborhood, people are still cleaning up after flooding almost 2 weeks ago. Some residents telling us they've lived in Austin all their lives and they have never seen anything like this. They had hoped the governor's disaster declaration would mean help is coming, but they still can't get anyone from the city to call them back. CBS News Chicago is always streaming your First Alert forecast. You'll find us on the News and Opinion page on Pluto TV and through the CBS News app on Fire TV and Roku. New here at 5, it was a quiet day at a Southwest Suburban Jewelry jewelry store until 3 robbers charged in wearing masks, grabbing whatever they could off shelves.
CBS 2's Noel Brennan spoke to the jewelry store's general manager in Bridgeview, who was held at gunpoint behind the counter.
This is my place of work, Jawahir Jewelry.
Even one customer would be too much to handle today.
Unfortunately, today we had to take a step back.
Jawahir Jewelry in Bridgeview is taking time.
Well, this is the day after a robbery.
To recover.
Put the store back together so we're ready for business again.
Fadi Zahuri doesn't need to see the surveillance video.
It gets your blood boiling, really.
Because he lived through it Thursday afternoon.
I don't wish it on my worst enemy, I'll tell you that.
The general manager and 2 of his employees are inside as the
Hi, everybody. I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist. Thank you for joining us here on the stream. Weather is getting active around Chicago, and we are looking at a number of severe thunderstorm warnings that have moved into the western suburbs now. So you can see how all the counties are starting to fill in with that orange color. So the National Weather Service is tracking this squall line with us, and they are issuing severe thunderstorm warnings now that have come up for DeKalb, Kane, Kendall. Now, the concern with this one is that they do have the tag on there, tornado possible, because of some rotation that has showed up within this particular cell. The rest of them also have that tornado possible tag on them for DeKalb and LaSalle. It is a damaging wind threat for us with severe thunderstorms as they move eastward, and this one is in effect for DeKalb County until 9:15 tonight, and the one is 8:45 for LaSalle County. So you're just getting a setup here of how all of this weather is starting to move into the western suburbs. You can see it here, and this is our concern really with this first cluster of storm activity. It is really starting to fill in with some strong winds. This line has had a history of 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts and creating some damage in the town of Dixon, which is well west of DeKalb, but that's what's creating some of this problem tonight. So this storm itself is lining up a squall line, bringing it into Chicago, and it's meeting that extremely warm and humid air that we've had in place really all day today. You know, the lakefront, the North Shore, the Loop all made it to about 94 degrees today, and O'Hare made it to 90 as well. So there's heat available. Even at this late hour, we're still in the 80s here at the lakefront, but there's a lot of humidity too, and that's just helping to fuel these storms as they move in. So you can see in DuPage County, Will and Cook, nothing happening just yet, but this storm front is knocking on your door. The warnings have come up now for Kane County because that is in the line here for this storm complex to move in. Storms themselves are moving eastward at about 45 miles per hour. So they have sped up in forward speed. When they were over the Quad Cities, that's when we noticed they were moving to the east at only 15 miles per hour. So now the forward speed has increased with these, and they're moving due east. So it's an eastward movement, and it's going at about 45 miles per hour. So let's put some towns on here for you of when you can expect the chance for some damaging winds. I really think that, yes, there is a chance some of these could show a quick spin up or rotation, but not the tornado outbreak like we saw the other night. But it is certainly possible we could end up with some isolated tornadoes this evening. The bigger threat is going to be the wind damage, just straight winds, and those winds could gust between 60 and 70 miles per hour. So if you live in Plano, you're next at 8:26 right now, almost in the next minute. These strong winds will be moving in with that thunderstorm activity. There's a lot of lightning out there as well with this storm line as it moves in. Sugar Grove 8:35, then into Oswego at 8:40. Aurora, now that's a spot when we're going to see those high winds move in. You know, the Storm Prediction Center was warning us about hail as well. I kept checking the hail tracker. So far, so good. Have not received reports of large hail. We have received reports of big winds with this across western Illinois, and now it's moving eastward. So I think the damaging winds are the biggest hazard with this, and also a lot of lightning. This squall line, it's important to track it, I think, with our timing mechanism here, because it's in the form of a squall line. It's not just popcorn garden variety thunderstorms that are developing and then dissipating. These are actually lining up and marching forward all in a solid line. So in Plainfield, 849, Naperville at 856, Joliet 901. So some of these communities, this front will be coming through, but you have a little time here to maybe secure some outdoor furniture or anything that's out in the yard that may blow around from winds that are 60 to 70 miles per hour. And I know those kind of winds certainly do not help the tornado cleanup from the other night, but we have to deal with it tonight as this squall line comes in. So it's important to note the times here. New Lenox about 9:09, Orland Park 9:13, and then into Tinley Park at 9:18. So the forward speed of this whole front really has slowed down than from what we originally thought was going to develop a faster forward speed, because you're talking that 9 o'clock hour when it starts to get into Orland and Tinley Park, and that's slowing down really, or speeding up the time that we expect it to be into Cook County, and then eventually it'll work its way into northwest Indiana. So we are looking at these storms. Here's the line of it. I wanted to put it into motion just so you can see that forward speed. And radar continues to suggest that damaging wind threats are going to be the greatest threat with this. Not a lot of reports have come in just yet, but also too, we are seeing that the radar trends are showing some slight indication of intensification. It also certainly is holding together, especially this particular cell right here, because that one is looking very healthy there on that last update. So we can look closer at these storms too, because since it has that tornado possible tag on it, we always want to be careful and kind of watch on our Doppler wind. Boy, when we see that aqua blue color, that is telling us that the wind flow is very strong. So a damaging wind threat definitely with this cell under this warned storm. So this area here, right between Victor and Northville and Sandwich, that's when we can see those very high winds pushing to the east. And basically the winds with these storms could be quite high as it moves eastward. So near Victor, also near Sandwich, winds are at 46 miles per hour right now, 48 miles per hour there. So with winds that high, you can tell that this is really starting to ramp up. And I think that's going to be the case for us. Now, as far as rotation goes, I don't see any formed couplets like we were seeing last night with that one isolated cell that formed. I don't see that here. I just see the strong wind profile thought. So really, I think this is going to be a damaging wind event for us. However, the Weather Service does have on there the little tag for the tornado possible with these. So you can see it right here. And they're talking about DeKalb, Kane, and Kendall. So that's just as this large cell is moving eastward at 45 miles per hour, bringing that damaging wind threat. So some minor rotation was indicated aloft, and they just want to make sure that it doesn't wrap up really tight. But it does not look like the same radar picture we had the other night when we had multiple tornadoes. I think the Weather Service now is up to 13 official reports of tornadoes that are confirmed. But with this is a severe thunderstorm warning now, and it's in effect until 9:15 for DeKalb, Kane, and Kendall counties, just because we are seeing that these storms are capable of bringing that damaging wind threat as they move eastward. And they are moving into this environment that is very warm and a little unstable for us too, because it's been so humid all day. You can certainly tell that. I'm reading another line from the National Weather Service, and they are talking about the leading edge of this line. They're looking for a brief tornado chance as this line moves into Grundy and southern Kane County. So we are going to watch Grundy, southern Kane right about here. That's what the Weather Service is looking at. So here's Kane County with Aurora, Grundy right about here. That is the area that we want to watch for the possibility of some rotation. So let's go in and take a look at that. As far as see, that aqua blue color is telling us basically that we do have some very high winds. But if we go in a little bit tighter, we want to see if the Weather Service, what they're talking about. So near Somonauk, you have some very strong winds currently. So this is south of you in Waterman. We've had wind reports in Leland in DeKalb County of a wind gust of 55 miles per hour so far. So some of these storm reports are just starting to come in because the squall line is interacting with our western suburbs now. And then it's going to be moving eastward. So we are carefully monitoring this particular cell as it moves into southern Kane, northern Grundy County. So we're talking about the areas of, well, Leland, that's where they had that 55-mile-per-hour wind gust, and then Somonauk, and also into Plano and Big Rock, and then Oswego and Aurora. You're going to be in on the line for this as it moves eastward. And the movement is to the east at 45 miles per hour. And that means that you can be in the line here to receive those strong winds. So the Weather Service is looking at this area right here for any possible areas of rotation for a brief spin-up of a tornado. But otherwise, what we are watching is severe thunderstorms now starting to step into Kane County. Here's I-88 running right through the Aurora area, Naperville, and Downers Grove eventually. And these storms are traveling in that general direction. So this strongest cell is the strongest one right now along the whole squall line that we're following, that's moving through northern Illinois. And I think the damaging wind threat is going to be the highest with this cell right now. And you could see those winds gusting perhaps 60 to 70 miles per hour. That was the prompt from the Storm Prediction Center just to issue that severe thunderstorm watch. Oh, and by the way, the severe thunderstorm watch now does include the city of Chicago and every county, not just our western counties any longer. It's been expanded just because of this squall line that's moving in. So this is the area we're monitoring for possible chances that we could see a little bit of rotation or perhaps a brief spin up of a tornado. But for right now, it is a severe thunderstorm that we are following between Hinckley and Northville. And it is moving east at about 45 miles per hour. Let's put another time track on it, because if you have a chance to go outside and maybe remove any loose furniture or anything outdoors, maybe a planter that might come over, topple over in the wind, you might want to move that, just because we have such a strong wind profile with this front as it moves in. So Big Rock, you're next in a couple of minutes at 8:35, and then Sugar Grove at 8:42, Aurora at 8:50, then Plainfield at 8:56. Then the top of the hour, we start getting closer to Troy, Joliet, 9:12, Downers Grove, and then Orland Park. I do think that this is going to hold together to move all the way to the lakefront. Maybe not this exact cell, but the entire squall line itself, because it is part of a disturbance that's going to be moving through. And I want to make sure that you know what time that the strongest part of this squall line is going to be moving in. And that's what we're zeroed in on right now with all of these times. So damaging winds are likely in places like Yorkville, like Big Rock, like Sugar Grove, in the next 15 minutes. So I can't stress it enough to watch these times and really kind of consider what's out and about in your yard that you can secure just so it doesn't get blown around, because you could have some debris also falling tree branch wise or power line possibly too. Because if we are talking damaging winds, that can pull down tree branches and also loosen anything that was damaged in the storm a couple of days ago, because a lot of things are still being repaired, of course, and the cleanup has just begun, and there still is debris around. There are still branches around and power lines around, and when you have these strong winds coming in and it's dark now almost, that we're going to have some problems here with this squall line coming into the picture. So these are the times that we expect those damaging winds. So in Sugar Grove at 8:42, then Aurora at 8:50, then Plainfield at 8:56, 9:07 in Joliet, Downers Grove at 9:12. So that's why the Weather Service is going to continue this severe thunderstorm warning, just because of that movement to the east. And this is the cell we're watching right now. It's the strongest one on the map that is the most severe. So it's between Northville and Hinckley, but the strongest wind flow is moving toward you in Yorkville. soon to Aurora as well. So areas along 88, any high-profile vehicles too, may have an issue with these strong winds as they travel eastward. But as we look underneath the rain at what neighborhoods these actually are seeing this heavy rain, we're talking about Victor and Sandwich and Plano and Yorkville, Bristol. You're right next for this damaging wind threat. Big Rock now, you're seeing those winds increase, the rain increase, and also the lightning too. We can check our data here and find our lightning detection network and just see how many lightning strikes are out there. And there's a lot of lightning. And this is a different pattern than we had a couple of nights ago. This is a true squall line with severe thunderstorms along it, creating damaging winds and a lot of lightning as well. There is a chance that we could have a brief spin up of a tornado. That's the concern with this. So that's why we are watching it as it moves eastward. So when we look at the velocity picture one more time, now that that sweep keeps coming through, wow, these aqua colors are really showing us that those are strong winds. So that's why the Weather Service is talking about a damaging wind threat, and that's why this warning is up. And those winds now are over Sandwich, but really closing in on Plano and very shortly on Yorkville and Bristol. And some of these winds may even fan out to Big Rock and to Sugar Grove. That's why this severe thunderstorm warning is in effect now until 9:30 for LaSalle County. So that's a new update with that one. But these winds are going to be pretty strong. I think overall it's going to be a damaging wind event for us as we move through the next 2 hours, I would say. So we have 55-mile-per-hour winds right now near Plano. And that's pretty strong, 43-mile-per-hour winds. So we can just get kind of an average idea here of how strong these winds are. And I think the core of the strongest winds are right near you in Plainfield, just about to move into Yorkville and then to Bristol and then to Oswego as well. So let's widen this out a little bit just so you can get an idea of all of the areas that are dealing with these severe thunderstorms. It's a line, it's a squall line, it's a bit of a different pattern than we had the other night. This is a true squall line of severe thunderstorms, bringing a lot of lightning in and damaging winds as well. So we do have warnings up as well. I'm going to back it up a little bit so you can see where we have the entire plot of warnings around the area. And this squall line is moving now into the Aurora in the Fox River Valley area. So that's where our damaging wind threat is. So the counties that are under the severe thunderstorm warnings, well, that does include DeKalb, Kane, Kendall County until 9:15, and then it's also for the southern parts of DeKalb and LaSalle County, and that's still till 8:45, and then also this one till 9:30 is for LaSalle County. But our concern really is for this cell we were just zoomed in on for possible chances of rotation. That's why both warnings have that tornado possible threat tag on there. And that's a concern because you want to make sure you don't end up with a quick spin up on the leading edge of that storm as that squall line pushes east. So we're starting to see this line now make progress eastward, getting closer to DuPage County, getting closer to Cook County as well. And the whole line will be moving through here over the next couple of hours. So possibilities that some of this could rotate, yes, but damaging wind threats, I think, are going to be the greatest threat with this storm complex as it moves in. So you can see the line now. It's lighter rain in McHenry, but the intensity that concerns us the most is here and here. And both of those areas are under the warnings, and both of those areas are showing damaging wind threats that are continuing to move eastward. The storms themselves are moving east at about 45 miles per hour. I can take those two lines that we've been looking at together, and they're right about here, and we can pull those to the east just to give you an idea of the different communities that are going to be affected by this. And here we go. So the damaging wind threat, if your town is on this list, check out the time and think about what's on your porch, what's out in your yard. Do you have furniture that's sensitive, like a little end table or a chair that's not very heavy? You might want to secure it, because when we're talking winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour, you could end up with debris around your yard, and some of that could fly through a window. You never know. So you just want to be careful and secure anything. So Sugar Grove, in the next 3 minutes, you are going to see those winds pick up dramatically, and add to that thunderstorm complex coming in too, because we showed you all the lightning with that very heavy rain The squall line is interacting with all the heat, all the humidity. It was so steamy and warm today. High temperatures made it into the 94-degree range. I saw 94 in Lincoln Park, 94 in the Loop at one moment this afternoon. That just tells you how hot it was. Then we watched dew point temperatures soar from the 60s, crossing to the 70-degree mark, and then to the 75-degree mark. Once it does that, it is a downright tropical air mass. So that means any storms that form can mix with this heat and this steam that we have built all day long. So that's just going to ignite the storms and really kind of energize them. And that's what we're seeing with the squall line as it moves eastward. So into Plainfield just after 9 o'clock at about 9:02, and then Naperville at 9:04, Joliet at 9:12. We like to use this storm tracker tool in a squall line form for a system like this because it truly is a squall line of thunderstorms. So the whole line is moving together at that same pace instead of individual cells that are popping up and maybe moving in slightly different directions at different speeds. That can get a little more tricky to follow. This is more like a whole squall line. So it's helpful to look at these times and to realize if your community is on this list, then you know when you can prepare for that damaging wind threat, because damaging winds, sometimes straight line winds and tornadic damage can almost look the same to someone if it has knocked down their structure, just because it's so intense and depending on what, of course, it's built out of. So you could end up with damage and debris from a storm system like this, even without tornadoes. But our concern is the leading edge of this line. The Weather Service keeps hinting that, you know, they're seeing a little bit of rotation. So now we are getting a report, let's see, from a 64-mile-per-hour wind gust in Plano. Okay, so that's telling you now that it is justified that we could see these very powerful winds along this front. And Plano, that's where we were just zoomed in on those strong winds as it moved eastward. It's this cell right here that is the strongest, but now they've expanded this warning. I think every county is going to end up with a warning as we go through this squall line tonight. Perhaps not, maybe Lake and McHenry don't get in on it, but the core of the strongest storm has now expanded the warning to include DuPage County and also northern Will County. So that's going to just continue moving eastward. And that's the problem because we have such big winds with this. Let's look at the warning plot and get the latest update on that, because you see how this is all filling in now? So Cook, DuPage, and Will. So the warning is for another hour because they do expect this squall line to move into DuPage County and Will County and western Cook and basically create that damaging wind threat. They're keeping that tornado possible threat tag on there. And that's a big flag for us to notice just because you have a quick spin-up opportunity. So some of this could rotate and spawn a quick tornado, and that's why we're watching this so carefully. So the Weather Service is telling us now that they are seeing indications on radar that the winds could gust to at least 70 miles per hour with the strongest parts of these storms, and that's why they've expanded the warning into the Chicago metro area, and the most intense winds are just about to you in Sugar Grove. So if you're in Sugar Grove, prepare for winds perhaps to 70+ miles per hour. That's a serious wind. That's a tropical storm force wind. So that is a powerful wind that's going to be moving in. So that's why now this is the brand new expansion of that severe thunderstorm warning. Soon the city will probably be involved in this as well once this cell moves a little more eastward. And it is on that eastward track at 45 miles per hour. So let's take a look. Let's go closer or wider. I want to show you actually this whole line. Now, it looks like it wants to weaken on the northern part of it, and that may be the case near the Wisconsin line, but it's actually strengthening when you get to the center portion and down to the south here in LaSalle County. So those are the two areas, 1 and 2, that we are watching carefully for intensification, for possible rotation, and definitely that damaging wind threat. But when the Weather Service starts talking about 70+ mile per hour winds, that could create a lot of damage. So they are seeing now that there is the Plano report came in with that 64 mile per hour wind gust. That's a serious wind. That's right in this cell that we were following earlier. So let's investigate that a little deeper now. After we've been talking for a while about the storm track and the latest warnings, the sweep's been going by. We've been getting some updates on the radar. So here is Plano, and that's where we are getting that wind gust to 64 miles per hour. Also, the Sugar Grove Airport just had a wind gust to 61 miles per hour. So that wind is moving to you in Aurora and Oswego. Plainfield soon you'll have it too, and Platteville. But right now the core of the strongest winds is right here near Plano, just to the east, closing in on Oswego. So I was highlighting this aqua. I love this product because it makes it so obvious for the naked eye for you to see where the most intense winds are. Because yes, we're keeping an eye out for possible couplets or rotation, but also we are looking for damaging winds, high winds, because we know overall the squall line is going to be prompting a damaging wind threat. And that's exactly what we can easily zero in on when we see these light blue returns like such. So if we investigate these just to see if we can get some of the speeds on those right in this vicinity. So a 48 mile per hour wind now just to the east, 51 mile per hour winds to 41. It can kind of give you that average of 50 miles per hour in some spots, 40 miles per hour in others. So 47 there. So this is all moving to you. You can see from Aurora to Oswego to Platteville. We're going to see this move eastward as these strong winds will continue with this big cell that's moving in. The heavy rain now over Big Rock, over Plano, moving away from you in Salmonock just a little bit, finally a little relief. But when we look east, it's Oswego, Fox River Valley, Naperville. You are next for this storm complex to move in. So I'm going to put a time on this so you can see what time you can expect it to be moving in, because I think that's so important when we're talking about a damaging wind threat and when we're getting these storm reports where we've had wind gusts. You can almost see now the radar taking an unusual curve to its shape. That also is another key factor to make us watch for a quick spin up, but also to tell us it is a strong damaging wind threat along the leading edge of this line as it moves east. And the eastward movement is about 45 miles per hour on average with these cells. So here are your new times that we have up, refreshed now that the radar sweep went by a few times. So it's 8:48 right now. So in Oswego, right now, next 2 minutes, your wind threat really amps up there. And we are seeing Aurora next on the list at 8:53. So Oswego and Aurora together soon, you're going to have those high winds. And then to Plainfield at about 8:59. Just after the top of the hour, that's when Naperville, I think, will see those high winds at 9:06. Joliet at 9:11, then to New Lenox. Now, usually when we track a storm, if it's a pop-up storm and they're scattered about and moving in different directions, we may not pay that much attention to the tail end of the list with the times, because we figure it'll either dissipate, change direction, or just kind of collapse. But with this is all part of a squall line. This is a damaging wind threat. So even at Midway Airport at 9:35, even Inglewood, if you're watching from Inglewood at 9:41, we do want to pay attention to these at the end, because we know it's a whole entire squall line that is going to move to the east, bringing that damaging wind threat all the way to the lakefront. And it's really focusing now as it moves through Kane County here, and it's going to step into DuPage County shortly after that. That's why we see Naperville getting in on this list as well at 9:06. Then Joliet at 9:11. So eventually Orland Park, I think you also are going to have this high wind threat. So wind gusts are going to be pretty strong. The Weather Service just sent out that statement that along this line of this particular cell, we could see wind gusts of 70+ miles per hour. So that's a serious damaging wind threat. So this is the core of the squall line that we're watching with the strongest thunderstorm activity. So right along 88, boy, I bet it's impossible to drive that right now with this rain falling and the wind just so strong there. So from Sugar Grove here to Big Rock, we are seeing the really heavy stuff, and it's just about to you in Aurora and also into Batavia and eventually West Chicago as well. A lot of lightning is still showing up with this feature too, because as we went through time today and watched the squall line move in, That has been the case. Lightning is another danger you want to be careful about because there is a ton of lightning all associated with this and some very heavy rain, and add to that the very high winds. So wind reports have been anywhere from 51 miles per hour to 64 miles per hour, and the Weather Service is saying the potential is here, especially as it moves into Batavia, Aurora, Oswego, Naperville. That's when we could see those winds gusting 70+ miles per hour. So I'm going to zoom this out a little bit so we can see what's happening with the rest of the squall line. See how much it's holding together, or are cells starting to break apart from the main line as it moves into the picture. So you can see the broken portion here is just rain in McHenry. So there are two distinct areas of severe weather, but I think the strongest part of it is still here, just starting to move through the Fox River Valley. So now we're getting a report that the, let's see, 77 knots from the west. So those 60 mile per hour winds you should plan on for sure, but it is a possibility that you could see a wind gust to 70 with this particular cell. So let's update you now on the latest warnings, and let me show you that, clear this out for you, just so we know where exactly we're talking about for severe thunderstorm warnings, because this line is moving closer to the city, and I wanted to give you the full picture here of where the warnings are. And we will go through these now because the most important one is this one because it's the strongest. It has the potential of bringing those 70+ mile per hour winds, and this warning also has the tornado possible threat tag on it. Not every warning gets that for a severe thunderstorm, but this one does. So does the second one, which is also part of this area. It's the third one that is just for a severe thunderstorm warning. But this complex that we were just zoomed in on and talking about that's going to the Fox River Valley, that has the potential to give us a quick spin up or a quick rotation into a thunderstorm. So that's a concern on top of the damaging wind threat, on top of the very heavy rain that may fall with it. And as it moves eastward, it's starting to step into Cook County as well. So that warning is over the edge, the western edge of Cook County, and I think eventually it could be expanded eastward. But for right now, this highlighted area is a severe thunderstorm warning until 9:45. So that just gives you kind of the big picture snapshot of what we're looking at. So these are all severe thunderstorm warnings. We've been watching carefully, monitoring the Weather Service and the velocity tracker to look at Doppler winds to see if there's any rotation on the edge of this squall line as it moves in. And I think the Weather Service is doing the same thing because that's why they're putting this tornado possible tag on that warning, just because maybe there was evidence of a little bit of rotation that didn't quite wind up tight, but it could. So what we're watching for is this cell right here. So yes, it's a wall of rain now that is moving in. It's more rain for you in McHenry here, but it's this cell that we're most concerned about. That's cell number 1, and this is number 2. This one's also pretty strong as it moves into LaSalle County. Storms have been tracking east at 45 miles per hour. We haven't talked much about this LaSalle storm down to the south, so let's take a little closer look at that and put a storm track on it for you as well, because this is an intense thunderstorm that is also moving eastward at 45 miles per hour. So into Morris, that area is going to be affected by this storm. So we'll catch the front of it here and track it out just to the east at 45. And now you can see that in Marseilles, soon in 3 minutes at 8:57, you could have some very strong winds moving in, and then to Allen at 9:04, Wapansi at 9:11. Then as we get into Morris, so Morris, you'll see this at about 9:18. Very heavy rain, a lot of lightning, and probably some damaging wind threats will be moving in. Same with Braceville. Braceville, though, a little bit later at 9:28, so there's like a 10-minute gap here between the two. And then into Reed, Salina about 9:43, and then Wilton at 9:52. So that is the cell down here that's also quite impressive, creating this severe thunderstorm warning that is still in effect. Let's go back to the one to the north. This is our strongest cell that we are watching near the Fox River Valley right now, and it is also moving eastward. So let's give this one a fresh track to the east at 45 miles per hour. And I think you can expect to see those winds really start to pick up in these towns that we're listing for you. And I want to list these towns just so you're aware, because the Weather Service is talking about perhaps 60 to 70 plus mile-per-hour winds. That's a serious damaging wind threat. So in Batavia, right now, in the next minute, this strong wind will be moving in with heavy rain, a lot of lightning, so the storm will be overhead now. Naperville, just after the top of the hour, it has stayed on that same timing. We like to update these to get the most refreshed time. Every time the sweep goes by and every time we get a radar update, we like to do a fresh storm track for you. But that has not changed much for you in Naperville. 9:05 will be the timing that you could see a damaging wind threat moving in. Then it's a lot at 9:10, Joliet at 9:14, and Orland Park at 9:24. This will move through the Midway Airport vicinity too, and all the neighborhoods around Midway Airport at 9:33. Inglewood, the timing hasn't changed for you. I think it was 9:41 last time. Now it's 9:40. So similar time there. City of Chicago is now showing up on our storm track, and that's important because this is our strongest cell that we're watching. 9:45, and then Hammond at 9:50. So we are going to see these hold together and step across the state line as well. But it's this particular cell that we tracked out for you. Take a look at the list and the timings, just so you know when it's going to be moving through your area. And if you have any loose objects or lawn furniture or potted sensitive plants that are on nice planters, you might want to pull them in or secure them, just because we are talking winds between 60 and 70 miles per hour as they track eastward. So we're expecting this all into the heart of Chicago's, downtown area, probably between 9 or 10. But I think what's interesting to note with this is how the squall line, I think, even though we have individual severe cells, the line itself has weakened as a line. It's kind of blossoming out now into scattered cells. This one in Ottawa getting hung up a little bit. There's one here over Aurora. But McHenry, this is just very heavy rain. But let's turn on our lightning feature. I'm curious to see if there's any lightning near the Wisconsin line with this. And you can see how much is clustering there over this cell, but nothing over McHenry County. So it tells me that you might be okay as this travels eastward and we start to see this front moving through. And then we'll start to see what happens with this next cell, the strongest one. So you can tell between the two, the one in Ottawa and the one in Aurora, the one in Aurora is much stronger and it is holding together. There's more lightning with it. The wind gust reports have been higher with this one, and the storm reports overall. The one in Ottawa also has slowed down in its forward speed. So I think we are most interested in this cell over Aurora. Let's widen the view too and show you what's going on now with this line. You can see it was holding together and then weakening on the last few updates here for McHenry County. That's good news for you, although you're getting some heavy rain probably in spots. But it's this first cell that we have to watch very carefully and just make sure that it doesn't have any quick rotation along the front of it. And I also wanted to update you on this. This is our severe thunderstorm watch. All evening we were talking about a severe thunderstorm watch only for our far western communities. Well, now it does include the city of Chicago. It does include you in Lake and McHenry, I think, because that squall line was getting closer and they wanted to make sure that all areas were alerted that we could see some very high winds with these storms as they move through. So the storms themselves are going to be moving through the city of Chicago. That's why we have this severe thunderstorm watch until 10. It's not later than that. I was wondering if they were going to expand it longer, but they think that the Weather Service thinks that this is going to stay on track. And notice they have peeled away the Rockford area from this severe thunderstorm watch. That's good news. That means once this line is through, then we should be okay. But we're not in the clear through the overnight, because I do think scattered showers and storms may be forming all over again for us as we go through the night, because we're expecting the warm air that we have rain-cooled air now, of course, for DeKalb and Aurora, but we're in the middle 80s and the storms are about to move into Cook County. So we have rain cooled areas, storm over Aurora, and that's going to be bumping in to this very warm air. Also, it's humid out. You felt that. Look at the dew point temperature at O'Hare is up to 71. So not only is it warm air, but it's humid air as well, and that's going to help spark these storms. So our futurecast is showing 10 o'clock over the city of Chicago and then pushing into northwest Indiana. But notice what happens. It's not a clean sweep overnight. This is 3 a.m. South of I-80, we could have some active weather tonight with showers and thunderstorms. And then Saturday morning, tapering off the rain, maybe lingering it a little bit in northwest Indiana. But I think our weekend chances are calling for scattered storms on Saturday, 85 degrees. West winds are light, so we'll push that warmth, yes, to the lakefront, but we'll hold it in the lower 80s. 83 Joliet, 86 McHenry. So not a washout of a day, but just know it's a 50-50 chance for showers and storms. A few changes coming for Sunday. A little less chance of rain, a stronger wind out of the west. And what that's going to do is make it warmer at the sand. So if you're standing on the sand, we're going to see temperatures in the middle 80s for daytime highs on Sunday. And the big difference on Sunday, I think that wildfire smoke, yes, from Canada, is going to be coming back. So on Sunday, we will probably have that haze to the sky. Thankfully, we don't have any tornado warnings right now, but we are carefully monitoring the leading edge of this severe weather warning because this has that tornado possible tag on it for Cook, DuPage, and Will. Just because a little earlier with this squall line, the Weather Service did look at a little bit of weak rotation. So that was the concern. They didn't want to have this turn into a quick spin up. So what they tell us is they use that tornado tag for us. So we know to watch for that and to check out the velocity of it. Not only the wind speed itself of any damaging winds, but to see if we can find any rotation or any couplets is what we call them on radar. And we look for the different signatures showing up. But right now it's a severe thunderstorm warning. So let's go through these timings for Cook, DuPage, and Will. So that's Cook, DuPage, and Will right here until 9:45. Now, Kane and Kendall on the backside of this, we also have that tornado possible tag, and that severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until 9:15. And right now we have a tornado warning. Okay, it's radar indicated, brand new, just in. Let's jump on air, can we? We'll pause for on air. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist. We have a tornado warning just issued for DuPage County and Kane County until 9:45. There are some circulations showing up on radar, and we are concerned about the chance for a brief tornado moving into this area. There are 3 separate circulations that we're looking at with this tornado warning that could produce a tornado at any moment. So we do want to tell you that there is a tornado warning now until 9:45 for DuPage County, much of it, and the edge of Kane County. So this is a tornado warning until 9:45. So we want to take a closer look at this cell. It is radar indicated at this moment, but we are starting to see, as well as the National Weather Service agrees, that this has the chance to produce some rotation. Now, it is moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. That's a little bit of a change from what we saw earlier. So we are going to take a track on this, take a look at this, so we can tell you what communities are in the track of this storm. So it is radar indicated, as we mentioned, and it is moving from Kane County into parts of DuPage County, moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. So we want to give you a storm survey on this and a track on this as it moves northeast at 40. That's the concern as it moves through really this portion of DuPage County. So it's a northeast movement that we can give you at 40 miles per hour, pulling away from Kane County and moving into DuPage and possibly to Cook if it were to hold together. So it's at 40 miles per hour. So we do want you to take cover in St. Charles at 9:08 for the possibility of damaging winds. Even if it doesn't spawn an actual tornado, a damaging wind threat is real. We've had wind reports anywhere between 50 and 60 miles per hour already with this squall line as it moved through western Illinois and our western suburbs. And now we have this tornado warning. Going into Naperville at 9:10, perhaps, Downers Grove at 9:21. So the time right now is 9:05. You have some time to go to the lowest level of your home, and you want to stay away from any windows and put as many walls between you and the outdoors as possible. And York, you are next on the line there at 9:26, then Schaumburg at 9:28, O'Hare 9:36, then Niles at 9:45, Jefferson Park 9:46, and then to Evanston at 9:55. We've been following this squall line all evening, and now we are seeing that there is some radar indication of rotation. So the National Weather Service went ahead with this tornado warning, which is in effect until 9:45, and that's because of the straight line wind threat, but also the rotation that is showing up on radar. So take a look at these communities. It's important that you take precautions now, go to the lowest level of your home. St. Charles now 9:08 in the next 2 minutes. Naperville 9:10, Downers Grove at 9:21, then into York at 9:26, Schaumburg 9:28. This could certainly hold together to O'Hare, Niles, Jefferson Park, and Evanston because it is part of a squall line. Now, the Weather Service also is issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for Cook and DuPage until 10 o'clock tonight because of the positioning of this squall line as all of this moves eastward. But it's this particular cell that we are looking at that is moving to the north and east. And that's the one we are watching tonight for the chance of some tornadic activity. You can see this area right here may be showing some signs of rotation. And that's what we are carefully monitoring. And that's what the Weather Service is looking at as well for the quick spin-up chance of a tornado. So when we zoom in here, we are talking about the Winfield area, Milton, Warrenville, Naperville, Lisle. Right here is I-88 with the 355 corridor. So this is an area we are talking about. And there is a storm report that just came in from Fermilab with an 87-mile-per-hour wind gust. And that's from a personal weather station reported at the Kane and DuPage County line. That's just telling you how intense this is. So you do want to take cover in the lowest level of your home for the chance of a tornado. But damaging wind threats are almost likely along this cell as it moves eastward. So we are talking about this area between Winfield and Warrenville right here. That is one area that is possibly showing signs of rotation where the National Weather Service is expecting some very high winds there. So here's Winfield Road and Mack Road out there by Cantini Golf Course. That's an area that we are seeing this activity. Very strong winds. There are a lot of neighborhoods out in this area. And here's Roosevelt Road and Butterfield Road down to the south. So this area, okay, we have a confirmed tornado now just south of Wheaton. South of Wheaton. So maybe if Joe wants to join me down here, we can get into a little more coverage, but I want to widen out the picture so we can head to Wheaton and take a look at this because Naperville, Warrenville, this is the area that's seeing that very strong wind moving into Downers Grove. And let's take a look at the radar too so we can give you an idea of that very heavy rain that's coming from North Aurora, heading into Warrenville, heading into Naperville, and to Winfield as well. So we are seeing that the storm velocity feature is really showing us how now we are starting to see those very strong winds and the areas of rotation that are around there. But if you live in Wheaton, that is a place where you want to take cover in the lowest level of your home. We are getting a confirmed tornado just south of Wheaton, near your Glen Ellen, moving northeast at 45. So if you live in Glen Ellen or in Wheaton, northeast at 45 miles per hour. Those are both towns that you have to take cover right now because we do have the confirmation of a tornado on the ground. So that is the reasoning for this pink box to show up here to tell us that we actually have a confirmed tornado on the ground. So let's zoom in a little bit tighter to those areas and take a look at it. So We have Bloomingdale, okay, in West Chicago. Let's get in a little bit tighter here and find out if we can see that showing up on our radar at all. Here's 88 as we're looking at it, and then there's Warrenville. And then let's go a little bit farther to the north. And Lisle, that is another place you want to take cover. The tornado is right in this vicinity of Lisle. Let's take a look and just see if we see any of this debris factor showing up on our feature here, because the tornado that they are reporting is in the Lisle area and Glen Ellen. So if you're watching from Lisle or Glen Ellen tonight, you want to take cover in the lowest level of your home and put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Stay away from windows because there is a confirmed tornado that is headed for Glen Ellen and for Lisle. This coming in from the National Weather Service. They have confirmation of a tornado. And again, Glen Ellen heading into the Glen Ellen and Lisle area. So there is a tornado warning that's in effect. Here's 88. Here's Route 53 here. We're very close to the Morton Arboretum here. We're very close to the Lisle train station here. We're close to Benedictine University here. This is a confirmation of a tornado on the ground. So if you are watching from Glen Ellen and from Lisle or from Wheaton, you do want to take cover in the lowest level of your home and put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And you definitely don't want to be looking out the window or trying to take pictures of it, because you will never see it with the heavy rain that's out there, and also it's dark out there and it's a confirmation of a tornado. That's the indication here with this pink box that we see here. So we want to track this out obviously for you as it moves east and northeast. The movement on it is going northeast at 45. So there is a confirmed tornado over Glen Ellen. Okay, over Glen Ellen, moving northeast at 45 miles per hour. So maybe the update for our graphic there can say Glen Ellen, and that's at 45 miles per hour. And it is over Glen Ellen, moving northeastward. So we are looking at this area near I-88 and 355. I'm going to have to give myself some more real estate here, and we can time this out for you because I want you to take cover in Downers Grove too at 916 and in York at 922, and if it were to hold together, Addison 925, even the O'Hare area. So if you are on this list or anywhere in between, and especially near Glen Ellen and Lisle, and even the Wheaton area, you do want to take cover in the lowest level of your home. We have a confirmed tornado that is moving northeast at 45 miles per hour, and it's confirmed headed for Glen Ellen and headed for Lisle. So both of those communities, you need to take cover in the lowest level of your home, away from windows, and you don't want to be outside, that's for sure. So Downers Grove 916, York 922, Addison 925, then O'Hare at 932, Jefferson Park 940, Evanston 948, and Rogers Park 948. So you can get an idea as it moves northeast at 45 miles per hour. These are the communities where you should be taking cover in the lowest level of your home, because we do have that confirmation of a tornado on the ground, and it's headed for Glen Ellen and for Lisle. So please take cover. And as we mentioned the other day when we saw the damage the next morning, when you're taking cover, maybe put on a pair of shoes, because then when you have to go outside and there's debris everywhere, at least your feet are covered. Now, they are continuing the tornado warning until 9:45. We have straight line wind damage over Lombard now, as that strong cell moved overhead. And these are the times that are in the path of that tornado warning. It is 9:14 right now, and at 9:16 we expect Downers Grove to have damaging winds. York at 9:22, and then to Addison at 9:25.
Hey, Mary Kay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious about the tornado warning. I think I might be able to maybe help you reset some of your computers here as well, if you need to do that while we're discussing. But my question is, that tornado warning, when it was initially issued, it was for DeKalb and Kane counties. Is that going to move into Cook County, or does it does it stay where it is now? Does that make sense?
The concern was that when it was in DeKalb County, it was a severe thunderstorm warning with a possible tornado tag on it. Now, this was a severe thunderstorm warning, and then it got upgraded to a tornado warning because of the confirmed tornado. And yes, it is on track to the northeast at 45 miles per hour. Now, the latest from the Weather Service, they're saying the tornado debris signature has dissipated, but we are carefully watching several areas of circulation in DuPage County. So, Joe, I think DuPage County is our hot spot right now for the possibility of rotation. And that's what we're looking at here. I'm going to zoom this out a little bit so you could take a closer look at what we're talking about. This area right here, that's where we have most of the strong thunderstorm activity. And it's all moving northeast. And, you know, anytime you start to see these little hooks and curves on the leading edge of it, any of that could start spinning up a quick, brief tornado. And that's the concern tonight from the National Weather Service. So now the strongest circulation really is affecting Bloomingdale. So that's the area now that we're watching for the chance, and so is the Weather Service, for some possible rotation. So it's right on the edge here of the tornado warning, and this is in Bloomingdale that we're watching. So we're going to switch over to the velocity mode and take a look at this area because we have strong winds from West Chicago and Wayne, but it's really around Bloomingdale where we are looking for a quick spin up. Now, sometimes when we have these really fast hook spin ups, all of a sudden, they don't show up like a true couplet like we would normally see when we talk about the red next to the green, and you can see it all coming together in one little bullseye. Sometimes when they're quick spin-ups, they don't appear that way and they don't present themselves that way, so they move through so quickly. And also on top of it, not only are we dealing with the chance of rotation or quick spin-ups, but we're also seeing damaging wind threats. And damaging winds have been so impressive with this system as it has moved through. And I think that's the case because when you're talking wind gusts between 60 and 70 plus miles per hour, that can create a lot of damage. That's tropical storm force wind moving through. But right now, the Bloomingdale area is a place where we are watching for circulation. We're watching for that very heavy rain now to start moving in. And yes, you have that tornado warning as well. I'm going to back this up just a bit so you can see those warnings again, where we have it right here for Bloomingdale, for York. This area here is what we're concerned with because this line has been moving through all evening, and now it's a broken line instead of that strong squall line, but individual cells have intensified. And that's the problem with this because they are showing signs of intensification, and that one has produced the tornado warning. Here's a clear sign of it right here. It's northeast DuPage County, but that's uncomfortably close to places like Schaumburg and O'Hare and all the other populated places as we get to the North Shore. So because of the movement to the north and the east. But this is the wide view of the cell we're looking at from that whole squall line. It kind of broke off and intensified by itself. And of course, it's right over our most populated area. And the concern is this corner here, right in northeastern DuPage County. So that's where we have the tornado warning. Let's reset this until 9:45. It's for DuPage County right now, and it's radar indicated rotation for this current warning right now, moving to the northeast at about 45 miles per hour. So as you can see, the squall line itself has weakened in the middle, weakened to the north. But there are two cells, one to the south that has been very strong, and then this one. Now, the one to the south had severe thunderstorm warnings with it, but now that has weakened just a bit, so the warning dropped off of it. But what we have with this one is a tornado warning and a severe thunderstorm warning ahead of it for the city of Chicago, just because of the track of it, because it's going to the northeast at 45 miles per hour, and that's the concern of it. So it's just to the north of Downers Grove here, and it is headed toward the Schaumburg area, toward O'Hare, and toward the lakefront eventually if it were to hold together as a rotating storm. But it's moving northeast now, and it's going at 45 miles per hour. So let's put a fresh track on it for you, because we're going to see this damaging wind threat and the possibility of a tornado moving into York at 9:23. The time right now is 9:19, so 9:23 for you in York. Elk Grove at 9:30, at O'Hare at 9:32. So here we go again with the airport getting under a possible severe weather situation. Humboldt Park, 9:42, and then to Evanston at 9:47. So this is the main game right now that we're watching, this tornado warning, and it has moved out of Kane County now, so it's just for DuPage County, and that's in effect until 9:45. But severe thunderstorm warnings do expand all the way through Cook County because of the movement of this cell to the northeast. So
Mary Kay, can you walk us through where that last sighting was, that confirmed sighting that was headed toward Glen Ellen that had just and near Lyle? Where does that stand right now?
Yeah, so now that is just a severe thunderstorm. Thankfully, that rotation kind of dissipated.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, because on the edge of these, you have to be so careful when you start seeing these little hooks and curves on it when it was all moving eastward, especially when we look at the velocity signature on it. It just really kind of shows you the power of the winds, but also you got to watch right about here to see if there are any rotations from it. Let's see, we're getting a spotter report now of 50-mile-per-hour winds in Lombard, straight line winds to 45 there also. So strong wind reports keep coming in, 45, 50 miles per hour, but they have been stronger. Okay, so even without any tornadoes, the Weather Service is saying we could still see wind gusts to 70 miles per hour. And we're talking about even the city. So that is what we're stressing now with this warning as it's coming through northeastern DuPage County here in the Downers Grove area. So I'll widen this out just a bit so you can get a better idea of how that cell is closing in on the city of Chicago. So we are talking about the city and central Cook County and northern Cook County. We could see wind gusts to 70 miles per hour. The tornado warning itself is for the northeast corner of DuPage County. And then the severe thunderstorm warning is into Cook County, just to account for that damaging wind threat as this cell moves east. So it's interesting to see now how the squall line has broken up a bit. In fact, that cell down to the south in LaSalle is no longer under a warning. They have let that go. This is the only game in town, and it is showing that weak rotation. But the big issue is the damaging wind threat. So as we go through time this evening, we are going to be watching this cell move into Cook County. You can see these orange boxes around Cook County indicating a severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning is right here in northeastern DuPage County. So if you live in northeastern DuPage County, those are places where you want to take cover in the lowest level of your home because of the possibility of a tornado. Now, the Weather Service is also watching the edges of these around Bloomingdale, around York. That's another spot we have to be very cautious of on the leading edge of this for the possibility of any rotation. Same with Downers Grove and into LaGrange as well. When you start seeing these little fingers or these little hooks coming out of the edge of this, not only could you get a quick spin up on the front of it as it's moving east, but overall, the squall line itself has the history of just creating these damaging straight line winds. So you're almost getting a combination chance of both issues. So we could have a quick spin up of a tornado, but we also could see damaging winds. And the winds could be up to 70+ miles per hour. So those are some serious winds now that are moving from DuPage County into the western portions of Cook County, highly populated areas here. You can see the heavy rain associated with this. There's also a lot of lightning around this system as well as it moves eastward. And I think that as the timing goes on, we'll get back to this tornado warning here because I want to update you on the latest with that. But we are looking at Bloomingdale and York and possibly even Melrose Park as well. It's almost hard to see because there's so much rain on the radar. But the tornado warning in effect here for another few minutes. And let's see, the Weather Service is saying the most concerning circulations are what we were just zoomed in on, and those are Bloomingdale and also moving toward O'Hare for us as well. And then we're looking into the near far western suburbs of Melrose Park, Bellwood, River Grove, River Forest. So your areas may be under the gun here for some damaging winds. And on the edge of this, that's our concern, to perhaps have a quick spin up of a tornado. So we're watching the O'Hare area very carefully as this storm is moving northeast at 45 miles per hour. And the warning itself, if I want to just kind of back it up for you to show you, is showing that we are under this tornado warning until 9:45 for the corner of DuPage County. This is a radar indicated tornado warning, and the Weather Service is watching carefully to see any signs of rotation. But the issue is, as this strong cell, severe cell, moves into Cook County, that's when you can see those winds that could gust to 70 miles per hour. And that would create a lot of damaging winds as we move right into the heart of the metro. So, okay, good news. The tornado warning is gone. It's been replaced with a severe thunderstorm warning. So now we're just talking about straight line wind damage. The tornado warning for DuPage County has been dropped. And now we're focusing on DuPage moving into Cook. The radar's getting pretty messy, I know, because you're starting to see this fan out. But the one to the south, if you're in Ottawa or Morris, yes, you have very heavy rain. You probably have a lot of thunder and lightning, but that is not severe anymore. The only severe complex we're looking at is right here, and the problem is it is moving closer to the heart of Cook County and also northern Cook County as well. So we can take a closer look at that and track that, because as it moves into the city, it is going to bring those very strong winds. And again, the damaging wind threat is still present over Downers Grove, stepping closer to you in Schaumburg, though, and this whole line is moving to the east. And it's starting to show those edges that are kind of hooks and curves, and that tells us that you have chances to watch for rotation just in case you get a quick spin up on the edge of it. And I think that's what the Weather Service, when they issue those warnings, that's exactly what they're looking for. So right now it's 9:26, and Schaumburg, you are probably just in on that very strong wind there. O'Hare shortly at 9:33. So here we go again with a severe cell moving right over the airport. Then it's going to be moving into Little Village as well. Now here's a live look at O'Hare. Wow.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, I can imagine they're all taking cover and stopping things there, because we have a lot of lightning around with this complex too as it came through.
It was interesting to me, Mary Kay, earlier in the evening, you and I were talking at your computer, and there were things that you saw bubbling up that you knew the tornado warning was imminent. And the other thing that's so important about this, as we play this out, our First Alert Weather is able to just literally pinpoint what's happening at this moment and anticipate wherever you are when this storm will be heading your way. As we look at the clock right now, 9:27, Elk Grove was due at 9:30, O'Hare around 9:32, 9:33, and then due into the Chicago area at about 9:48. But the good news is the tornado warning has now been canceled. That was the highlight of what was a concerning pattern that was moving this way. There was a confirmed tornado at about 9:11 in the Lisle and Glen Ellen area, so folks there were certainly on alert. Wheaton as well. That was one thing that was probably the worst of this little system that came through, and it reminds us a lot of what happened on Wednesday night, where the National Weather Service is now saying they had 13 confirmed tornadoes Wednesday night. As we know, we saw a lot of extensive damage around the area, especially in Elgin and a number of other suburbs. Wednesday night was a wild one, and talking with Mary Kay and Albert after the fact, there were elements of that storm Wednesday night that they really hadn't seen, or certainly hadn't seen in a long time. Even Albert and Mary Kay both mentioning the fact that these radar signatures weren't necessarily impressive, but the concern was that everywhere you looked, there was the potential for one of these tornadoes to spin up. And as we know now at least 13 did on Wednesday night. So coming up on 9:30 right now, Mary Kay's back with us. The warnings that are in effect right now are what?
The severe thunderstorm warnings that we have in effect are still in for the city, and we have them in for DuPage County, the corner of Will. So this is really the core of the system starting to move closer to the city, also to O'Hare, also to the North Shore. The issue is that with this severe thunderstorm warning, we have that tornado possible tag on there because of the rotation earlier with some of these cells. But the issue too is straight line wind damage. We could see winds gusting 70+ miles per hour as this storm complex moves from DuPage County into Cook. And you can see that right here is the severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect until 9:45 this evening. Storms are moving northeastward. Be prepared here in north and central Cook County. That's where we have the severe thunderstorm warnings for now. So we are going to, you can join us on our stream on CBSNewsChicago.com. We are going to continue to analyze the radar and follow the storms as they move into the city. But for now, I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist. Okay. Can you put the chat back up, please, in the touch?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining us here on the stream.
Thank you.
Stream whenever you want, wherever you want. We won't judge you. Keep streaming.
When I think about growing up in Evanston, a lot of it is family. It's a real foundational feeling that's never left me. I love the commitment to surviving winter. I love the drive to always be better. I love the passion for our sports teams, taking advantage of those last warm days of summer. There's endless opportunity here to learn about each other. I feel that in this city. And I do still pinch myself when I'm driving in on Kennedy and see the skyline, unless there's terrible traffic.
Here's what you get with your average local news stream. Here's what you get with CBS News Chicago. More breaking live coverage.
A closer look at the inauguration of the new mayor.
More impactful interviews.
Today, we're finding solutions.
More First Alert weather team coverage.
Here's all the clouds we've been dealing with all morning long.
More live content when you want it, wherever you are. CBS News Chicago. More of what you're streaming for.
Cutting the cord on cable? Stream CBS 2 News live every day on CBS News Chicago.
I want you to find. I believe in not just talking about change, but being part of the change. And how I think you do that is you impact our youth. You'll find me all the time out in the community. You'll find me mentoring. You'll find me there hoping to inspire our youth in the city. We have a responsibility to go into our neighborhoods, to go into our community centers, to talk to our young boys and girls, and to be there for them, and that's so important to me.
I'm meteorologist Mary Kay Kleist. We are going to update you now on this damaging wind threat. We have the severe thunderstorm warning for Cook County now, central, northern Cook County, southern Lake, also the edge of Will County and all of DuPage County. And this is in effect until 9:45, just because we have the chances here on the backside of this for some strong winds. Now, the severe thunderstorm warning for Cook County and Cook Pelican Lake has been extended through the 10 o'clock hour just because we are going to see those very strong winds pull from DuPage County into Cook County, and we are watching for the chance of any rotation with this. But we could easily see winds between 40 and 60 miles per hour with this storm complex. That's almost likely, but they could gust even higher. We're talking winds could gust 60 to 70 miles per hour, and this severe thunderstorm warning has a tornado possible tag on it, so we want to be mindful of that just in case there's any rotation. Now, when we look at the radar too, it's looking kind of messy as compared to before when we had a very distinct squall line of thunderstorms as they were moving into the western suburbs. Now it's broken up a bit. We have heavy rain in Morris. This cell no longer severe. It was severe earlier, but now it is just heavy, heavy rain. It's up here what we're looking at for the stronger portion of the storm itself. So we're going to get in a little bit tighter and show you how that particular cell is starting to make its move into the O'Hare, Schaumburg area, and also we're watching southern Lake County to get in on this as well. Movement has been to the northeast at 45 miles per hour, so we're going to see those high winds now get closer to the actual city. So we're seeing heavy rain starting to develop and get closer. It's over 294, but then the high winds are going to be moving over the Kennedy, the Ike, and the Stevenson as well as this whole cluster of thunderstorm activity tracks eastward. Now, it is shrinking in size, but the intensity is still there, and the risk of possible rotation is still there. So we've been monitoring this to see if there are any further rotations or quick spin-ups for any tornadoes. And when we see this ragged edge to the radar and the history of this whole squall line when it prompted the tornado warning earlier, we want to make sure that we're not finding anything in the way of rotation. But velocity, our Doppler winds are showing us those high winds right here, those light pink areas right around Schaumburg. That's telling us right now that is where our strongest winds are. And we're starting to see those really pick up here around Mount Prospect, around Elk Grove, and there's O'Hare to the south and South Barrington. I'll move this map up just a little bit so we can take a look at some of these areas between Schaumburg and O'Hare Airport. So O'Hare Airport now just reported a wind gust of 58 miles per hour. That's a strong wind, and that will definitely be able to create some damage. So you want to know about this because any kind of damaging wind threat when you're talking winds that high. So we could try to plot around and see if we could find some of these higher winds. There's a lot of data here though, but basically I'm finding winds 35 to 45 miles per hour right along this vicinity here. But the report from O'Hare that came in with that 58 mile per hour wind gust. So it's very windy here around Elk Grove Village, around O'Hare, around Des Plaines, and also I noticed a pocket of that a little farther to the south as well as we get into Elmwood Park and Oak Park and Berwyn. So now we're starting to run along the Ike here, strong winds and also heavy rain. If we switch back to the radar, you can see that heavy rain from Bellwood is moving eastward to you. It's heavy in Lyons right now, but this is all moving into Little Village, into Berwyn, into Oak Park and Elmwood Park in the form of heavy rain. So downpours are likely, but the damaging wind threat, I think, has been the greatest. So far, I have not received hail reports of any significance, even though we were kind of expecting that. It seems like this is mostly a damaging wind event with the threat of some rotation, with some possibility of a quick spin up of a tornado. So we have one cluster of storm activity here running from Willow Springs to Midway, right along the Stevenson and I-55 here. That is very heavy rain pushing to the east. Also damaging winds may accompany some of this rain. Then to the north, I think the northern part of this is actually stronger when we look near O'Hare and near Bloomingdale and Schaumburg. Bloomingdale's been a place where we've had some rotation with some of the storms that we've been monitoring very carefully. But now all of that heavy rain and wind is starting to move into Des Plaines and O'Hare and eventually into Wheeling and Northfield as well, and it'll make its way for the North Shore too. So be on the watch for that. We have some down trees in Naperville. We have the O'Hare storm report of a 58-mile-per-hour wind gust. The storm spotters are out and about giving us official reports, and the Weather Service is passing those along to us as this high wind event moves into the Chicago metro. So we're seeing the heavy rain now right along the highway there as it's moving east from Elmhurst and from Schaumburg, headed into the city itself. And it's moving pretty quickly at about 45 miles per hour. But the problem is it's carrying those winds that are at 45 to 50 miles per hour with some higher gusts. And the radar is starting to get pretty ragged looking, even though it's intense. We're starting to see these rain showers move through O'Hare now and then get into Midway also on the tail end of that at 9:46. I was curious to see the timing for the actual downtown city of Chicago, and that would be at 9:53. So right before 10 o'clock here, we're going to see this rain move into Chicago. It's very heavy in nature, and we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the city because of this complex of rain. It is moving east at 45 miles per hour, so I'm going to back this up here and show you where we do have all of the warnings. Right now they are focused here closer to the lakefront until 10 o'clock tonight. Let me clear this for you. Okay, so 10 o'clock tonight for Cook County, and then the extreme northern part of Cook and into Lake, that is until 10:15. And then this one down to the south is about to expire here at 9:45 for the southwest corner of Cook County and much of DuPage as well. So we're talking through 10 o'clock that we are going to be dealing with this severe thunderstorm as it moves through the city of Chicago. There is the tornado possible tag on there just because the history of these this evening as this squall line moved in, showing some signs of rotation. Radar is active tonight. Heavy rain and thunderstorm activity to the south, but our severe thunderstorm warning is for the city of Chicago as everything is moving northeast at about 45 miles per hour. We've been watching carefully for any kinds of rotation on this. I'm not seeing it at this point, but we are getting the idea that very high wind action is possible here as we get into Evanston and the North Shore and the city and Skokie, and from Elmhurst all the way to the lakefront. Basically, we're going to see this move to the east and northeast at 45, bring with it that damaging wind threat, and those winds could gust 40 to 60 miles per hour. Now, the Weather Service also is talking about some higher isolated wind gusts as well, and that's certainly possible. But if you're in Inglewood tonight, you can see this wall of rain is starting to ride the Stevenson, getting closer to you, and it's a severe thunderstorm warning for the city of Chicago, and that's in effect until 10 o'clock tonight. Schaumburg, the airport, that's another place where we have had high winds and also some very intense rain along this busy area. So here's O'Hare, here's Des Plaines, Wooddale and Roselle and Bloomingdale, and all of this heavy activity is moving northeast. So from Elmwood Park to Jefferson Park to Morton Grove to Northfield, those are spots that are going to be seeing this next. Now we have a brand new storm report coming in from Schaumburg, and that is a wind gust of 70 miles per hour. So that just tells you how powerful this storm is. Schaumburg, a wind gust to 70. That severe cell, though, is now finally east of you. So what this tells us is that it has the potential, this cell, to produce a 70-mile-per-hour wind gust like we saw in Schaumburg. And right now it's moving into Des Plaines, moving into O'Hare, moving into Wooddale. So all of these areas should prepare for that chance of a 70-mile-per-hour wind gust, knowing that this cell just came out of Schaumburg, creating that high wind. On the north end of this, we're seeing the same thing. From Northfield to Niles to Gulf to Jefferson Park, you also could see those 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So the damaging wind threat, I think, is the biggest issue tonight for us as this storm is getting closer to the lake, but it still has some real estate to deal with, and that could bring damaging wind threats to the area of Cook County, northern Cook and central Cook County. DuPage County is looking a little bit better as this starts to pull away from Bloomingdale, but it is starting to focus on Cook County. So The leading edge of the storm line is starting to move toward the Cook County Lakeshore areas. There still could be pockets of winds over 60 miles per hour here in the next 10 minutes. So between now and 10 o'clock, I think we're going to be watching for those extremely high winds here for the city of Chicago, for the North Shore especially, and for this area down to the south. So as we take a live look at O'Hare, you could just see the incredible amounts of lightning out there. And boy, the winds have been very high with a 70-mile-per-hour gust. That is pretty significant for it to be that high. And that's a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for the O'Hare area and also for the city of Chicago. So for the next 10 minutes here, we're going to be watching winds to 60 across southern Lake County too. Don't forget that, because you are also part of this severe thunderstorm warning. And so we're talking about Deerfield, Highland Park, the North Shore, all those areas. And this is a live look at O'Hare now. Just lightning strike after lightning strike, just telling us about the intensity of this storm. So to recap here, the current warnings that we have out are severe thunderstorm warnings now for these. Okay, so now they just dropped the DuPage and the western parts of Cook, but it's the heart of the city and it's also southern Lake County. Some good news here. They have dropped the tornado possible tag because I think this is, I agree, it's going to be more of a wind damage event of straight line winds. And we are seeing the greater chance for damaging winds more so than the chance of a tornado. So severe thunderstorm warnings are in effect until 10:15 for Southern Lake and the edge of Cook right here, and until 10 o'clock for the city of Chicago. So as we get into Wilmette and the North Shore, it's probably going to be an area that's going to be hit with the damaging winds as the storms push for the lakefront. So until about 10:15, that's when you'll be clear from this. Everything to the south is not severe. So we're going to sign off for now live, but we'll be back at 10, of course, with all the updates. But just know the severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 10 o'clock for the city of Chicago.
Thank you both for joining us here on the stream.
Thank you, Brad.
Stream whenever you want, wherever you want. We won't judge you. Keep streaming.
When I think about growing up in Evanston, a lot of it is family. It's a real foundational feeling that's never left me. I love the commitment to surviving winter. I love the drive to always be better. I love the passion for our sports teams, taking advantage of those last warm days of summer. There's endless opportunity here to